and welcome to Cheftini's Kitchen, where we make magical meals in minutes. I'm Tina DeLeo, and if you like any of the recipes that you see here today, please visit my website, cheftini.com. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Today we're going to be making my favorite penne alla vodka. My recipe for penne vodka includes olive oil and butter. We're going to start with some San Marzano tomatoes, some basic tomato sauce, some garlic, some shallots, some heavy cream, some pancetta bacon, or you could use prosciutto, and we are also going to include some vodka. Okay, to start, we're going to take about 2 tablespoons of butter. Oh, let's see if we can get that out. 2 tablespoons of butter, and I would say about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I'm going to eyeball it, but you can measure it. It's probably about, I would say, 1.5 swirls around the pan. And you're going to take your pancetta, or you could use prosciutto. I was purchasing the prosciutto for our show today, and I didn't really like the brand that they had, so I opted to switch out the prosciutto for pancetta, which you can also use regular bacon. We are also going to include some shallots. In order to have the shallots melt into the sauce, I like to use a cheese grater and just sort of grate them. Careful, watch your fingers. And I grate, you can probably do this over a bowl even, and then I like to grate it. It may get stuck on the inside. I'll just take my fingers and, sort of gently move it in. You could also take a knife and chop them up. I prefer to do it this way. I have some picky eaters in my household. Whoops, running away from me. So I like to grate it, and it kind of melts in, and there's no heavy, not heavy, but there's no thick chunks of, my shallot doesn't want to grate today. It just wants to hop off the, I guess I would too if I was being chopped up. Okay, so we have in the pan our butter, our shallots, our olive oil, and our pancetta, and of course, there would not be penne alla vodka or any Italian sauce without just a little bit of garlic. So I'm just going to take a little bit of garlic clove, crush it on the board. I like to keep it a little big, so if you want to pull some pieces out, in case anyone doesn't like the flavor of the garlic, you can just pick it out in your sauce. Okay, so we're going to give this a quick saute. We want to get our shallots nice and clear or translucent, and just give our pancetta a little bit of color to give it some extra flavor. I don't like to season just yet because the pancetta is a little bit salty, so you want to be careful with how much salt you put into this dish, because there is a lot of, in my recipe, there's a lot of cheese, and whether you use pancetta or prosciutto or bacon, it has a lot of sodium, so you want to be careful with how much salt you add. At least that's how I prefer it. So you can hear our pan, and it's starting to sizzle, and that's a good sign. Our butter is melting, and we are going to give this a quick stir. And I'm going to let this just saute for about 2 to 3 minutes. Once the butter's melted and the onions are clear and the bacon is a little bit crispy, we're going to add our vodka and let that simmer. Okay, so our bacon and our onions are just about ready. We're going to add the vodka, like I mentioned. Give it a little sizzle. Just be careful not to get the vodka near the flame, because it can cause a little bit of a fire, and we don't want that. Not a fire, but it will the flame will catch up. So actually, one way to do that is to just take the pan off the stove, put it off to the side, pour your vodka in, and then put it back on, just for safety measures. Okay, our cream is added into the tomato mixture, our sauce mixture, and we're going to let it simmer down for about 10 minutes. It's a little bit watery right now, and once it begins to thicken down, it will begin to look a lot like this sauce that I have already over here. This sauce is done. It's through the magic of television all ready to go. So the only thing that I would do to this, which is optional, is I would probably add some fresh parsley or whatever herb you prefer. I like parsley with this. Some people like basil. Again, you can make it your own recipe. So actually I'm going to go ahead and just add it all in there. That's it, and your sauce is pretty much ready to go. It's always a good idea to have your sauce waiting for you, waiting for your pasta rather, not waiting for you, so that you can always reheat it. So as of right now, our water is just about boiled, so I'm going to put the penne pasta in, and once it's done, I'm going to coat it through the sauce, and we'll be ready to eat. And of course, any Italian dish would not be complete without a good serving of grated Parmesan or Pecorino Romano cheese. To go with our penne alla vodka, we're going to make a flat out garlic bread. So to start, I have some extra virgin olive oil. I have some garlic salt, some dried Italian seasonings, some fresh garlic, and a little Parmesan cheese. So what I like to do for the flat out garlic bread is just pour a little bit of olive oil in a bowl. I then take a piece of garlic and I use a very fine grater, like a microplane, so that we don't have big chunks of garlic. And I like to just put that directly into the oil, grate that right into the oil. So it gives you nice, fine pieces of garlic without any large chunks. You can just flip it over, and then you don't need too much, just want it for flavor. And then I'm going to take a good pinch, probably more than a pinch, it's probably a good teaspoon of dried Italian seasoning, and I'm just going to mix it up like so. Then I'm going to dip my brush and brush along the garlic, brush along the flatbread. You don't want to put too much oil on here because it will pool up on the baking sheet. So I'm just going to finish smoothing this out. Okay, so I'm done spreading the olive oil and herb mixture. I'm going to place it on a greased cookie sheet. And before I put it into my preheated oven at 425 degrees, I just wanted to let you know that you can find flat out bread pizza crusts in the deli section of your local grocery store. So I put that on the bottom rack of the oven for about 3 minutes. I like to put my kitchen timer on for 3 minutes. And once that beeps, I'll check on it and see how it looks. It usually takes about 5 minutes, but I like to do it in shorter increments so that the thin crust doesn't burn. All ovens are different and their degrees vary, so you would want to check it the first time you make it and test it out. So when I remove the flat out garlic bread from the oven, I'm going to give it a good pinch of garlic salt and a good pinch of grated Parmesan cheese, and then I cut it up and serve it with my pasta. Okay, so here's our finished product, our penne alla vodka and our flat out garlic bread. I'm going to put a little extra cheese on top of mine because there's never enough cheese for me. So I hope that you enjoy this recipe and you enjoy our garlic bread, and manja and enjoy. Good. So right now we're going to make a chicken tender marsala with peas. To make this dish, you're going to need chicken tenders. You could also use chicken breast cut in half. You're going to need a little milk with, it's a milk wash with milk and Parmesan cheese, some flour. You're of course going to need some peas, and of course you're going to need some marsala wine. So this is a dish that I actually was born out of necessity because I needed to make something for dinner. I was going to make chicken marsala and I didn't have any mushrooms, so I looked into the freezer and I found a bag of peas, and here we have now chicken marsala with peas, which happens to be one of the most popular recipes on my website. So to begin, we are going to use a saute pan. Well, actually, to begin, I'm going to just grab a dish here. The first thing you need to do is you're going to take your chicken tenders. I have whole milk here. You can use 1% or 2% milk. You're going to take the chicken tenders, you're going to dip them in a milk and Parmesan cheese wash. Then you're going to dip it into a little flour, and then we're going to saute it in a little butter and olive oil. So before I begin, I'm going to add my Parmesan cheese to the milk. Just, you know, a tablespoon or so. I'm going to give it a good stir, just to mix it in. I like to put the cheese in because it gives it flavor, and it also helps the coating stick to the chicken. Okay, and we're also going to season our flour with a little bit of salt. You want to season your every stage of the cooking process. Oh, this is already open, so I'm just going to give it a little turn here, and just to give it a little extra flavor. This is a little chunkier than I would like, but pepper mill is not working for me right now. So, okay. So the thing you're going to do is, you know, you actually should also season your chicken tenders with a little salt and pepper. I'm going to skip that step at the moment, but I do suggest that you do it. So I'm going to dip it inside of the milk. Let me just move my olive oil. You can actually just throw them all in. You don't even need to dip them individually. It'll just soak up. Give them a good push here. And actually, while I do this, I think we'll take our butter and olive oil and we'll start to heat that up in a pan. I'm just going to give this a good coat. Try not to be too messy. You just want a little bit, the flour just gives it a little extra crunch and a little coating on the chicken. I prefer it this way. If you would like a really crunchier coating, you could even use like a Wonder flour. It gives it a little extra crunch. I like a tender. I don't know, tender and crunchy can be used in the same sentence, but it gives it a nice coating for the searing process, the sauteing process. Okay, so our chicken is coated in our flour. Okay, our chicken is coated with the flour. I'm going to give my hands a quick wash and then get the chicken ready to be put into the pan with some olive oil and butter. Okay, I have my pan on medium heat. I am melting a little bit of butter, and I'm going to add some, I would say, just about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I'm going to let that melt down. Just medium heat. This is just about melting. I like to use butter and olive oil because the olive oil burns at a very high heat, and the butter balances that out. And they taste really good together, so. Okay, that is just about ready to go. I'm going to take our chicken tenders. Put them in the pan. Put them away, place them in the pan away from you, that way you don't burn yourself. And I don't want to crowd this pan, so I'm only going to put 4, although I made 5, just for now. You don't want to put too much in the pan at one time because it brings the heat down of the pan and your chicken will not cook. Your chicken will not cook evenly, and you want it all to cook at the same rate. And you want the pan to stay at a certain temperature so that it cooks through and you have it cooked on the inside as well as the outside. Okay, it's sizzling away here. Just going to move this dish out of the way. We can cook that one up after. You can always cook in batches. This pan is perfect for 4 pieces, so I'm going to cut the recipe I have on my website in half. And what you can do is just let that cook. You want to make sure your chicken is cooked. Our chicken tenders are just about done. I am going to add a little bit of Marsala wine. Don't forget to remove your pan from the heat when you're cooking with alcohol so that it does not catch on fire. The flame, it's flammable, so we want to be careful. And I'm just going to add some chicken stock. Okay. We're just going to bring that up to a simmer, and it's going to thicken up. I think it's going to need about 3 to 4 minutes here. We can actually cover it. We want to cook the alcohol out. Marsala has a lower level alcohol content, but you still like to cook it out. And I don't add any additional butter to this to thicken the sauce because we have the flour and the butter from when we initially sauteed it, and that will allow this Marsala and chicken stock to thicken up and make its own sauce. If it doesn't get thicker, then you can always at the very end add a little butter and it'll begin to thicken up. You don't want to bring it to too high a boil once you do that because it'll begin to separate. The sauce will begin to separate. And once this comes to a boil, that's when we'll add the peas, because the peas are frozen peas and they don't need too much time to cook. You're really just heating them through. And we're just going to bring that to a simmer for about 2 to 3 minutes, and we'll be right back. Okay, so the chicken tenders are just about done. My sauce did not quite thicken up as much as I would have liked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them out of the pan, and I'm just going to set them aside on a clean dish. Whoop. Okay. And I'm going to add, about, I would say, a few pinches of rosemary or thyme. And I'm going to add about a handful of peas. I'm also going to add, I would say about, there's probably 2 tablespoons here. I'm going to add another tablespoon of butter. Just to thicken up the sauce a little bit more. These are ready to go. I'm going to actually just cook this down. The peas are going to simmer through. They're done. Just let that. You don't want to bring it to too high a boil because as I said before, the sauce will separate. I'm just going to mix that in, thicken it up. It's going to be a delicious Marsala sauce. If you didn't have peas, you could use asparagus. If you didn't have that, you could always go with the traditional mushrooms. And any vegetable would really work. I don't know if I would do peppers. Well, I guess you could really do anything that you like, right? That would actually might be good. Peppers might be good in there. Okay, so now this is coming to a little bit of a boil. I'm just going to turn it down. It's going to thicken up. It's going to give this a cover just for, I would say 60 seconds. Just want to bring that up to a little bit more. The stove is not cooperating with me today. It doesn't want to. Just going to give the pan a little bit of a shake. This helps keep the liquid moving, still heating up the peas. The sauce is still thickening up. And it's just, I'm going to turn it up just a little bit. And that's the thing about cooking. You should never be afraid to try something new. If you don't have an ingredient, you can always substitute. You could always come to my website or Google it, any substitutions that you can use while you're cooking. I think that's the mistake a lot of us make, is that we get stuck on a recipe and one idea, and we think we can't do something because we don't have the traditional ingredients. And like I said, this was a dish born out of necessity. It didn't have the ingredients for a traditional chicken marsala, and I came up with this dish, and it's been a family favorite ever since. And I would say this is just about ready. It's just about ready to go. You could pour the sauce over your chicken. I'm just going to put mine back in and give it a little coat of the sauce. And then I will, oh, I don't have a spoon, so I'll just swirl it around here. Give it a nice swirl of the pan. Turn over the chicken so both sides are coated, and then I'm just going to, don't worry if a little bit of the flour comes off, that's okay. It's still going to all, I'm just going to, and I'm going to bring this over to my counter, and we'll, you can just spoon the sauce over the top here. Looks so good. It smells unbelievable. I know my camera people here are looking at me like they're going to have some. Javon, my producer, is salivating as we speak because he's going to dig right in once we're done. It smells, it's a marsala facial. It's so deliciously good, and I can't wait for you to try it, and I hope that you enjoy it. So good.